Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Iowa State Cyclones Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. As always, I'm your host, Levi Stevenson, managing editor over at Wide Right and Netty Light. Hope everybody has having a good Thanksgiving week. Had a good weekend this past weekend. Iowa State getting the win, obviously, against Kansas this past weekend, and then we'll be going into Oklahoma State this weekend for the season finale. We've also got a couple big wins this week for the Iowa State basketball team over in Vegas in the Players Era Classic. We'll talk about that just a little bit. But obviously the big story of the weekend, though, is that Iowa State very much got back on track versus Kansas. Really, really good game. Just everything that you wanted to see out of that game, as far as just the offense moving the ball, Rocco being solid, it all came together. And it was so nice to see. We've been, even though they did get the just a really kind of amazing win down in Fort Worth a few weekends ago against TCU to get off their losing streak. The offense still played fairly poorly the passing game was still pretty poor for a good chunk of that game. So it was a little bit of a bittersweet win. And you were just really hoping that they could take that momentum in from the end of that game, from the fourth quarter of that game, where the offense was actually pretty decent. Rocco threw a couple really nice balls in those last couple drives. You're hoping that they could really just take that in through the bye week and get to Kansas, who has a not good defense. They have a couple like individually good players on defense, but as a whole, the defense is just not very good. And you thought this could be a game where they could get on track, especially if they can pull off of that momentum from the TCU game. And that's essentially exactly what happened. So we'll talk about that here in just a second, actually. If anybody wants to call in and give their opinions on whatever, I will put the link down in the chat. You don't have to use video. You can just jump in and go audio only if you want. That's perfectly fine. But there you go in the chat. If you would like to jump in, just follow that link to the StreamYard, and then I can let you in whenever. But this game needed to happen, especially because Kansas had won 3 in a row against Iowa State. Kind of got easy to forget that a little bit because Iowa State just blasted Kansas for such a long time. But Kansas had won 3 in a row with Lance Leipold as their coach. And part of it was due to a scheme that was a big problem for the Iowa State's defense to defend. Partially because last year you didn't have any sort of a pass rush. You had young linebackers that were easily able to be manipulated around with the misdirection, with the RPOs and things like that. And this past weekend, if you watch Kansas on offense, they were trying some of their normal stuff, but for a good chunk of that game, Kansas had no open receivers. I mean, for most of that first half, they couldn't get anybody open. Their entire offense was passes shorter than 5 yards. It was passes out to the flats, basically. That was all they had for an offense for an entire half. If you look, I'll pull up the stats here, actually. So if you look up these stats here, Kansas in the I was trying to find the first half, but for the game, they ended up putting together an okay total yardage. But I mean, they really just didn't do anything. Let me see if I can find it. So yeah, so here we are. So early on, quarter one, I mean, he only completed 6 passes through halftime. And now part of this too, what's worth noting on this is that for a good chunk of this game, I mean, Iowa State owned time of possession. Let me see if I can find the stat on that. I believe it was like 40 minutes. It was Iowa State controlled the ball for an unbelievable amount of time. Let's see if I can find that. But I want to say the time of possession comparison was like 39 minutes, 40 minutes to 20. I would say just sat on the ball. They ran the ball. They did a really, really nice job of just keeping drives moving, picking up first downs, and and keeping Kansas's offense off the field. It was a really, really impressive performance all the way around. The main one too I want you to check out here is Rocco Becht. Right there, 18 of 23 for 241 yards, no picks. That is exactly the type of play we were hoping to see from Rocco again. He had struggled so mightily there for 5 games, just couldn't get anything going. Part of it, we said we don't know for sure, but could have been part of some side effects from that hit he took against Cincinnati. But this is a Rocco Becht stat line. 18 23, 241 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. 209 rating, one of his best games as a Cyclone. He was awesome. There was maybe like 1 or 2 that were a little bit dangerous, but for the most part, there wasn't really a lot of passes that you felt like Kansas was like this close to getting. Yeah, this is exactly right. It felt like Rocco from the beginning of the year. That's 100% right. It felt like Kansas State game Rocco. And the offense did just a fantastic job. Let's see if I can find here, go through the final book here and see if I can find the time of possession stat. I would really be curious to see if I can find that. I know it was significant. Yeah, right there. So time of possession. It's kickoffs. Where'd it go? I just saw it. Damn it. Yep, possession time right there. Kansas held the ball for 20 minutes and 52 seconds. And Iowa State had the ball for almost 40 minutes. 40 minutes of possession time is a great way to win a football game. If you're continuing to move the ball and you're scoring, like Iowa State did, where they were fairly efficient in the red zone, that is a great way to win a football game. It doesn't matter if the other offense is good or not. Keeping them off the field and you staying on it is a great way to not just win a football game, but frankly, blow out the other team like they did. And it was never close. The game never felt in doubt. Kansas never threatened. There was never a spot like, oh, they might come back. It was never that way. It was one of the most stress-free Big 12 games I think I've watched in forever. Fred says, I don't remember any drops. I believe the only drop on the game was Carson Brown dropped one later in the game, I think. Yeah, 40 minutes of possession time is an unbelievable number. I have to find it again, but I believe Carson Brown technically dropped a pass, but it certainly was not a day where you were frustrated with the receivers. The receivers actually themselves had a very, very nice day. Brett Askelson there. Let's see if I can go down here. Did anybody drop? Oh, actually, nope. There you go. Nobody dropped one. I thought they had not had hit Carson Brown with a drop, but Brett Askelson leads the team, 6 catches, 73 yards, couple touchdowns. Ben Bramer had a touchdown there on the pop pass. Chase Soule had 2 catches for 60 yards. Caught a really nice ball down the sideline. Beautiful ball by Rocco, one of his best throws of the season. It had another one where I believe it was on a hitch or an out route. Caught it, shook a tackle, and got up and got about 20, 25 yard gain. By far the best game of the season for the pass catchers. It was really nice to see that. That was the game you were hoping to see from the passing game. Pretty much. I mean, that was I would say that was the best game of the season by the Iowa State passing game so far, just as a total performance. And that was even given Iowa State, rushing for 220 yards on the ground and 50 times. They only threw the ball 23 times. They ran it 50 times. 50 times. And ran for 221, which at 4.4 a clip, that's a great number. Love that. And that was even with Dylan Lee only losing a couple yards. Um, they ran the ball 2/3 of the time, and they still put up one of their best passing performances of the season. You know, it was just it was an all around dominant performance that just felt like this was a game that they deserved to have, and you have to feel great for not just Rocco in the pass catcher, but for like Taylor Mauser, who I think he thought he had gotten a lot of undue flack on social media. I mean, obviously, if the offense is underperforming, he plays a big part in that. But and for a long time, it was not like Taylor Mauser can't throw the ball for Rocco. He can't catch the ball for the receivers. He can all he can do is scheme them open, and he was doing that. The receivers were getting open. There was just nothing going on. And but the running game has been consistent. And that's a sign of if receivers are getting open and the running game is finding room, that's a great sign that your offensive coordinator is doing his job. But it also should not be lost that Iowa State's offensive line is good. Like, I mean, it's not even just like the offensive line is better than, it's not even just like the best one of the Campbell era. I mean, this is like the offensive line this season has been legit good, very, very good. And if they can keep performing the way they have this season, against Oklahoma State and then in the bowl game, they're going to win both of those games because right now Iowa State's running game is a force. They're not like they're not rushing for 7 yards a carry like you saw some of those like Art Briles Baylor teams and stuff like that. But they're doing the yeoman's work, 4.5, 5 yards a carry, just bang, 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 bang. And to the point where it just gets really, really tiresome for the defense to even try to do anything with it. You got Carson Hansen is playing the best football of his career. Abu Sama had some really nice carries and showed that when you can get him going, get him on a roll, he becomes he becomes a big problem. It's on back-to-back plays, I believe, is when he trucked a dude, and then the next play they gave him a handoff outside, and he threw a defender to the ground. It wasn't even just a stiff arm; he just threw him on the ground. It was kind of wild. Let me see if I can I'm going to see if I can find that clip. It was pretty unbelievable. But that was why I thought like when Carson Hansen was out and Abu Sama got lots of carries, and I think we saw that he was really good in that stretch. And I think part of it was because he was not allowed, but he was able to really do something, really get going. Oh, here we go. We got a nice clip here, courtesy of Wide Right 90 Light alum Jake Brend. Let's see if I can pull this up here and make it normal. There we go. So this is this is just the third down run. I mean, he goes in, just bam, just runs him over. Let's see. I don't know if he's going to if he's got the second one there or not. So that was immediately followed up with the stiff arm. Let's see if I can find the stiff arm. It's a puppies. I don't know. Never mind. But it was a really great play. The running game is a massive problem to deal with right now. The weight of that running game it has to be the focus of your defense. Whereas like if you don't have a top tier defensive line that is capable of shutting down a running game on its own, if you don't have that available to you, you have to dedicate 6-7 guys every single time just to deal with RPOs because that running game is so heavy right now. I would say is leaning on that running game, leaning on the offensive line, who's doing a fantastic job. And when you combine that with Rocca going 18 of 23 for 3 touchdowns and no picks, it gets really difficult to figure out how you beat Iowa State. When they hold the ball for 40 minutes, Rocco throws for almost 80% completions with no picks, and the running game is getting 4.5 yards a pop for 50 carries. 50. Like that's I don't as a defensive coordinator, that is a nightmare. That is I'm not even remotely interested in scheming against an offensive line that can move guys around, that can get space pretty much wherever they want. And you have two running backs that are really, really good. That if either of them goes down or either of them needs a spell, they can put the other one in and rip off five carries in a drive, and the running game will make up 70% of that drive. And then you have Rocco back on track for whenever they decide to run play action, RPOs, whatever it is, and you're in trouble. There's a lot like I would say it's not necessarily a high flying scheme. This isn't the Chip Kelly Ducks. This isn't a Mike Leach Raiders, Red Raiders team or anything like that. This is just a really good balanced football team. At their best, it's a really good balanced football team that presents a mountain of challenges for a defense to try to scheme around. And I shouldn't and that's on me. I shouldn't forget about Aiden Flora, who has blossomed into one of Iowa State's like most explosive and exciting skill players. Now he's obviously, he was a return specialist for a good chunk of the season, and return a punt, and almost has really two punt return for punt returns for a touchdown. Has a couple long kick returns, and then he houses he gets, was it one carry, I think, two carries, and houses one of them from about 45 yards out, and so now Iowa State's got two backs plus give the ball to this kid and he does something with it guy. It's a lot to deal with. And if they ever can, Chase Soul was really good after the catch. The tight ends were involved. Brett Eskelson had his, one of his best games of his career. I don't know about yardage wise, but as far as just like productivity and consistency, that was one of probably maybe the best game of his career. This version of Iowa State is a nightmare to deal with. This version of Iowa State is worthy of winning a Big 12 title. Unfortunately, because of the 4-game losing streak, that's not an option. It's not in the cards, and it is what it is. But this is the team that if you could have had this a month ago, Iowa State's playing for a Big 12 title in a couple weeks. And you're talking about getting into the playoff and all this. This is a really difficult version of Iowa State to beat. And the great part is you get a lot of guys back next year. Now, the offensive line is losing 3 starters. Not great. But you are bringing back the two main guys in your interior, in Trevor Bohr and Brennan Black. You have Vaye Ikakula in here someplace. You've got Cool that slides in there someplace. You've got Austin Barrett. You've got plenty of guys in that room that I think will step up, and I think that will be a good offensive line, especially because now we've got proof that the Iowa State football program has a good offensive line in them, that they can produce a really good offensive line. And Ryan Clanton has turned out to be worth every penny that we pay him and more. And when he got hired, we were talking about it on Down the Pipe and Andy Light. For anybody listening, we were talking about that group. We thought the Clanton hire was one of the best of the Campbell era as far as assistant coaches go. We thought he would be able to get this offensive line in a good shape, and they are. I mean, especially with just like his philosophy, it was a matter of time before those guys developed, or they were able to be in the system, and they were able to be a really, really good run blocking unit. And sure as shit, they are. It's a really good offensive line, and it's a shame that I think that they probably just missed the cut for like the Joe Moore Award, but gosh, they're a good unit. And they've got guys, you're going to lose a few guys, but you're going to bring in some really talented guys next year that I think will make a big impact there as well. Like I'm really excited to see like Cool and Vaye Ikakula added into the mix someplace. Like maybe they move Brendan Black inside to center finally, and actually follow through on that. Put Brendan Black at center, and then put Ikakula or Cool at right guard, and then figure out a tackle or some situation like that. Like there's a lot of fun possibilities that you can do with that offensive line. And he won't be ready next year because he'd just be a senior in high school next year. But then they've got Will Slagle coming down the line, one of the recruits that committed this past weekend, 4-star in-state offensive line legacy that committed while he was in the tailgate lots. Which, if you want to become an instant like cult hero at Iowa State, you be a 4-star in-state offensive lineman that commits while they're tailgating in the parking lot at Jack Trice Stadium. That is how you become a fan favorite immediately. So that was really, really cool. Like that was an amazing moment. He went on Facebook Live and committed and everything. It was incredible. Um, but back to the game. This was, you can't say it's like a perfect performance, I guess, but it was. I mean, it's about as close to perfect as you can ask for, really. The Kansas never threatened. They I would say led from the beginning and just dominated this thing start to finish. They didn't let up in the second half. It's it's a generous list, though I have some reservations about Iowa 4 stars. We haven't had the best luck with them. I mean, Alan Lazard was pretty good, I would say. Uh, Abu Sama wasn't a 4 star, but he was like really close to it, and he's been a pretty good player. And Abu Sama's ceiling almost maybe a victim of the fact that just Carson Hansen is also there. Like I think Iowa State is better with Hansen and Sama, but like if Sama was the only starting back, he was the bell cow back, kind of like Brees Hall and um and David Montgomery. You know, I we might be talking about him the same way. And there's been a couple other 4 stars that haven't panned out, but like I mean, like Hunter Deo didn't pan out, and like there's a couple other guys, but like I think the point that Iowa 4 stars fail out, I think it's a little overblown because like I mean, obviously it's gotten 4 stars from other places that didn't work. Greg Gaines, I believe he's playing at the University of Maine now, like Rhode Island. He's playing up in New England, which is now football hotbed, New England. That is. Greg Gaines didn't work out. I mean, oh, well, Hunter Deckers, I guess, is the other one that you're like probably like, oh, he didn't work out. He's a 4 star, but let me see here. I can find this. Let's see here. 247 is a little slow right now. I was looking for the all-time commitments, but we've had other commitments that just didn't work out. I mean, that's not shit happens, and maybe it feels like it's more frequent than usual. Of course, the page isn't working, but of course it feels like it's more frequent than usual because JJ, sure. I think it feels more frequent than usual because we don't get a lot. Like Iowa produces probably more 4 star recruits than you think they do. It's just a lot of them go to Iowa, or if they're really good, they go someplace else. Or even the 5 star recruits, they'll go someplace else. If you remember the class with Caden Proctor, went to Alabama, and Xavier Wampa went to Iowa. Yeah, but yeah. No, I get it that you're kind of is mostly in jest, but like I actually have heard that point made though that like Iowa 4 stars don't work out at Iowa State, and I think it's a little overblown. But this is one. It's a lineman. We know that we have a good offensive line coach. This isn't like, I would say it's not quite like Hunter Deckers, let's say, where he's coming from a really small school and he's lighting it up at 1A or like class A or 8-man football or whatever it was. I think maybe like single A maybe. And then he goes and kills it at camps and stuff like that. Like, and JJ wasn't at a small school, but he was also, he's like prototypical size. He's like 6'5", he's huge. He's a really, really tall kid. So like physically he's there, and he goes, he's an all-star at camps and all that. So like, sometimes those don't work out. But I feel like offensive line is a little bit different where, especially if you're going to have, Deckers was good, just dumb. And also got fucked by the state, which he did. I do think that had Hunter Deckers stuck around and played out the rest of his career how he kind of thought it would, which I believe he would have, because he would have just graduated last year. Had he been able to do that, I really do think by the end of his career he would have been a really nice player. But because he just had tons of raw talent. I mean, the raw talent was very obvious. It just didn't work out because of all the gambling stuff. But obviously, it's worked out for Iowa State generally speaking because of Bracco. But I'm not particularly worried about Will Slagle not working out. Like if you just look at the kid, watch his tape, he's enthusiastic about being here. He looks like he's a classic like Iowa farm kid, and looks like every single lineman that Iowa's ever pumped into the NFL. Decker's not running enough, I think, is an interesting one. I think that was part because back then they were still on like senior Brock Purdy mode where they were trying to just preserve Brock Purdy his last year, and then they just didn't let Hunter run. But either way, Will Slagle, he's going to have a really, really good position coach. I firmly believe he will be a 4-year starter at Iowa State. Like, I think he'll redshirt, and then I think he will force his way onto the field. I think he'll be a 4-year. I think he'll be a 4-year starter at Iowa State. And I think it'll be pretty awesome. I actually did get a couple other recruits this past just yesterday. I think we had 3 of them. We had a flip, a safety flip from Army, when they had a tight end and a receiver flip from Colorado. Either of them are like the safety and the tight end. The tight end was a nice flip, specifically. I'm pulling them up here. Give me 1 second. So I'll show you the safety first. Tayton Duncan is his name. He's an 88, so he's a high 3-star. He was an Army commit. 5'11", 185 out of Mustang, Oklahoma. We've gotten players out of Mustang, Oklahoma before. It's a good high school program. He's got Iowa State, West Virginia, Army. Not like a crazy offer list, but if you have, assuming that Caprice Keith flips to Kansas State to play receiver there, which that seems like that's kind of like the prevailing thing that's going to happen. I guess I don't know if he's still technically committed to us, but he's taking a visit to Kansas State probably this week or next week, and Kansas State wants him to play receiver, which it sounds like he wants to play receiver. So we'll see how that works out. I think they're kind of just assuming that they're going to lose Caprice Keith, because Iowa State wants him as a safety. But it kind of is what it is. Actually, in a couple years, if you can get Mason Bandauer, get Mason Bandauer ready to go with Will Slagle, that'd be a nice pair of tackles right there for you. And this Ajibula Afuye, I think is also a really, really nice player that, I think this is a really nice pair of offensive. I guess he's a defensive lineman. I think I saw that they could potentially play him an offensive line, but I'm not sure. He may be just committed as D line. But the tight end commit, they got Arlie Morrill. He's from Pratt, Kansas. He was a Colorado State commit, 6'6", 210, so he's a little bit on the light side, but they can put weight on him. Iowa State, Colorado State, Oregon State, Arizona for his main offers. 87 rating on 247 for whatever that's worth. They needed to get a tight end this class. After just losing out on every single damn tight end commit in the class, every single high end tight end target that they went after, they just lost every single damn one of them. And it's so that was a nice win to get. The receiver they flipped was Cash Brock here. He's from Chandler, Arizona. He's 84, so he's kind of a low 3-star. He's got actually basically the same offer list as the tight end. We'll see. I haven't got a chance to watch him a ton yet. Let's see. So he's actually flipping for this class. Let's see here. Catch him, find him downfield. Oh. Thanks, cameraman. Just okay, that's a nice little block there. Granted, these are highlights, so they're just they're gonna look good, but nice snag, little run after the catch. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what he does. I mean, just on those 5 plays what I've watched there, his athleticism doesn't necessarily blow me away, but he runs hard. I mean, he plays hard. We'll see what happens there. He's more of a developmental prospect, I think. But I mean, this staff has been good at finding kind of diamonds in the rough, especially at receiver. They've done a pretty good job. We'll see there. Duke says the DN has some nasty film. Are you talking about Afuye? Or I guess who are you referring to? I'm assuming you're referring to Afuye because his film is quite good. He's a really player. Just fighting through a run block there. Oh, I guess you guys can't really see it very well, but yeah, unfortunately, this isn't super conducive to watching it on here. Let's see. There's a Fouye right there off the edge. Nice job fighting through a block. Goes and chases him down. Oof, good hit. Went off the edge there. Fighting through some blocks. I like that. Needs to get down, needs to get his leverage down a little bit and get a little more bendy. But overall, blocked kick. Nice. He's a touch stiff, but like overall, I like what I see here. I mean, he's definitely like a good like college position coach, making a couple tweaks away from being uh from being like really 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 interesting. Because if you watch him right here, so he's pushing off. Especially when he's sitting on like a read option, something like that. He tends to stay a little upright. So like a college offensive tackle is going to push him around a little bit just because of that form. But I mean, the athleticism is clearly there. He plays with a good drive. He's playing a little upright. He needs to learn to play with leverage, but that can be easily corrected by position coaches. So overall, though, obviously it's got a nice little class that they've put together here. Um, yeah, up to 47th in the country, which is kind of towards the top end of where Iowa State typically ends up hanging out. I think their last few classes have been kind of in that neighborhood. 2025 was 57. Oopsies. Yeah, we already got Vaea Kakula. 71. I mean, like there's Marcus Neal. I didn't realize that Marcus Neal was a 4-star. Nice. He's been awesome. Even when you had JJ Cole and Abby Sama and a few of these guys in this class, Ben Bramer, they're sitting at 61. So right now, we'll see how this class shakes out, like as the class kind of winds down. But right now, they're in a spot to be one of the best classes in of recent years. I love Jeffrey Roberts in this class. Kid can fly. He's going to be a really good receiver at Iowa State. They've got a few guys in this here I'm really, really excited about. So, we'll see how it all works out. But I think the flips they got this past week were much needed at a couple positions. And overall, I'm pretty happy with what they got for sure. So, all right. Does anybody have any other thoughts on this game they wanted to get there? So I was trying to catch every comment I could. I'm going to go back through here. Let's see if I can find any of the other ones I didn't. Guess I don't see. I think I got them all. But, let's go into, we'll talk about a little bit, a couple injury updates here. So we found out that Cooper Alexander is going to be out. We found out that Will McLaughlin is going to have to medically retire, which I had heard that they were talking about before this season, even because his back is in such bad shape. But now he's officially medically retiring, which sucks for Will because he was, when he's been healthy, he's been really good. But kind of is what it is, I guess. It's a bummer that had to happen, but just, sometimes it's just the nature of things. And you just like Bo Freeler could have medically redshirted and he had his shoulders were all fucked up, but you could still kind of play with some bad shoulders. Will McLaughlin's deals his back. And if your back is messed up, you just can't do it. Cause if you one more bad injury to that back and you're going to be basically paralyzed for the rest of your life. And we're not trying to there's just no amount of football that's worth that. So it sucks that Will McLaughlin is having to medically retire, but we obviously all wish him the best. Andrew Keller was the one before this season that had to medically retire as well. But one big piece of news we did get, and I think the Dukester mentioned it at the beginning of the thing, is that Caleb Bacon got his medical red shirt and is coming back for 2026, which I think is awesome. That'll allow you to keep that entire linebacking core. Your linebacking core is going to be Caleb Bacon, Cooper Ebel, Caleb Rosina, and I don't know, see if how Will Hawthorne fits in that mix, Mason Miller, a couple of these guys. see how all those guys fit in. But overall, I'm really really excited about that group. I thought the linebackers were one of maybe the most consistent group the entire season, and I you're getting basically everybody back. Having Caleb Bacon back rules. Like straight up, it's just an awesome development having that guy back, getting his medical red shirt. Uh, Great for the team, great for that group, and bodes extremely well for a defense that's bringing back pretty much everybody except for Dominic Orange. Unfortunately, Dominic Orange is really, really good, but only having to replace one guy is a big deal because now your starting defense is going to be whoever they put on the edge. Achilles Yogu has played well the last couple games. We'll see if he continues to do that. Build on that. Like my guess is your starting defense next year is Jace Gilbert, Zamir Hawk, Zamir Hawk, Achilles Yogu, Caleb Zima, Cooper Ebel, Caleb Bacon, Jontez Williams, Marcus Neal, Jamison Patton. Then the other safety could be Kajon Cummings Coleman. It could be maybe Drew Surgis, could be a few other people, and then Jeremiah Cooper. Like if you now they this year they did not play Cooper and Jontez on the field at the same time, but like theoretically on the field you could put Jontez Williams, Jamison Patton, Marcus Neal, Kajon Cummings Coleman, and Jeremiah Cooper as your secondary, and that would be by far and away the best secondary in the Big 12, and it would be probably a top 5, at least top 10, maybe a top 5 secondary in college football. That is an unbelievably good secondary. Even if they rotate out, they do like Jontez and Quentin Taylor with Coop and David Coffey or something like that, or LaMarcus Hicks or something like that, fitting in, I say, yeah, you're right. On paper, I think Iowa State has one of the top 2 defenses in the conference next year. You see what Texas Tech does because obviously they've got their oil money, but so they may be able to slap together there. And God, Trey Bell, fucking Trey Bell. Iowa State's got an unbelievable. So like next year you can start Jontez and Trey Bell, and then have Jeremiah Cooper and Quentin Taylor rotate in. Like Iowa State is going to have a dumb good defense next year, especially if they can find a defensive lineman that they really really like. Whether it's through the transfer portal or it's someone that's in the program, whatever that looks like, if they can shore up that nose tackle spot, the defense is going to be extremely good next year, really good. And you can also bring back a good chunk of your offense, your quarterback, all 3 of your running backs that are getting any carries right now, your entire receiving core except for Carson Brown, I guess. You're bringing back all your tight ends. You're losing a couple linemen, but you feel good about who's in the program. 2026 feels like if they stay healthy, they are building in a way that 2026 has a chance to be really, really, really special. Moving Trey to safety isn't the worst idea. He's probably big enough he could play back there. I know you can move Trey to safety if you feel good about if you feel good about your starting your top 4 of Jontez, Quentin, Coop, and David Coffey. If you feel like those 4 are good enough, then you could move Trey Bell just back to safety just to keep him on the field because you feel like you have to. But I'm sure they'll figure that out. General Stola says, "Do you think Townsend 6th round?" This is a great question. I thought early in the season, when he was able to get touches, I thought he was really good, and I thought he was like on his way to becoming like Big 12 newcomer of the year, almost like that kind of player. As the season went on, it sounds like he got banged up. He's going to require wrist surgery this, in the off season. We'll see what happens there. It just depends on if he just didn't play towards the end because of this injury, I think he'll be back. If he didn't play because he just lost snaps to Brett Esselson, Chase Soul, and these guys, if he just lost snaps to these guys, Now, you remember, like, Eli Green is not coming back next year, so Eli Green's done. I guess he's your receiver that you lose. Um, but if you think if he fits into the top 3 receivers, uh, for next season, I think he'll be back. I mean, I don't know too much about the situation other than we just found out this week that he's gonna need, like, wrist surgery. So, we'll see. Yeah, Overby is only a redshirt freshman this year. Like, I mean, like, Dominic Overby has got 3 years to play. So, if I don't I mean, I guess he could transfer, but, I mean, I would say really took a chance on him coming out of high school. He had, like, no offers. Um, I mean, like, I guess anything's possible. I would be pretty shocked if Abu Sama transferred. He's clearly one of 2, main starters here. You know, it seems like he likes it. I mean, I have seen no indications that Abu Sama is, like, unhappy or anything like that. It seems like they both just accept their role. I mean, and when Hansen was down, he played pretty well, but, like, Hansen's playing the best football of his career right now, so it's like, obviously, you're gonna give him more of the carries. I mean, like I said, anything's possible, I guess, but I don't know. I kind of think I would be pretty surprised if Abu Sama transferred, but anything's possible. I mean, we're in the age where somebody could come out of nowhere and write him a check for $1.2 million or something write him a check for $1 million and then says, "Fuck it, I'm going to go play at Ole Miss," or something like that. Like, he could do that. I mean, I don't believe he will, but I yeah, it's hard to say. If you're a fan of college football 26 and you've seen Abu Sama transfer away from your team 100 times in career in dynasty mode, I would not give any grain of salt to that. Those, like, who transfers and who doesn't is completely made up in that game. Like, it doesn't well, one, it doesn't, like, account for, like, the player's actual personality. It doesn't properly weigh, player loyalty to a coach. It doesn't weigh any of that. So, like, if that's what's freaking you out, then it is what it is. But yeah, I don't think right now I would be pretty surprised if Abu Sama transferred it. I don't really see, is Hansen one of the best backs in Iowa State history? Uh this is an excellent question. It's a good offseason question, which but I'll kind of weigh in on a little bit right now. I think no, I mean, the problem is that Iowa State's got a pretty good stable of backs historically. I mean, he's certainly not in the top. He's not, like, in the grouping with Troy Davis, Brees Hall, and Dave Montgomery. He's not in that grouping. Um, is he better than Stevie Hicks? Is he better than, you know, Hiawatha Rutland? Like, is he better? Like, yeah, it's tough. So Kene Nwangu is your third running back in the league right now. Kene is in the league as a return specialist. He's not really a running back in the NFL, so I'm not gonna. I mean, if you ask me right now to pick college Kene Nwangu over college Carson Hansen, I'm taking Carson Hansen for sure. Um, like, as a running back. Now on your team, sure. Um, but I think right now, I think Hansen's probably knocking on the door. I would say Hansen's knocking on the door of, like, he's probably top 10, I would say. Just because once you get past 5, it gets a little wishy-washy. I mean, like, it was like Alexander Rob. Like, would you take Alexander Robinson over Carson Hansen? Like, if you put Alexander Robinson on this team, do you think he outrushes Carson Hansen? It's hard to say. I kind of think he would. I think in this offense, I think Alexander Robinson is maybe ahead of Carson Hansen, but that could be rose-colored glasses for a running back that was really good on some bad teams. Another guy like Mike Warren. If you put Mike Warren on this team, does he? If you put Mike Warren on this team, does he outrush Carson Hansen? I don't know the answer to that. Granted, Mike Warren was kind of a one-season wonder, but that wasn't necessarily his fault because they changed blocking schemes. Then you had Dave Montgomery show up. Um, right now, I'm going to say that Carson Hansen is not a top 5 running back in Iowa State history. But if he has like another good season next year where he rushes for 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards, something like that, I think he absolutely could be in the conversation for like top 5 probably. Because after the problem is to bust in the top 3, you got to be like, I mean, you got to be in consideration for like the best back in college football if you're going to be in the top 3. Because all 3 of those guys, Dave Montgomery, Brees Hall, and Troy Davis, were in the conversation for best running back in college football while they were at Iowa State. So you pretty much got to be there if you're going to try to be in the top 3. Just like a little bit beyond that, who's the 4th best back in Iowa State history? You could probably go like there's some older guys too. But I'm trying to think, Blaze Bryan, stuff like that. There's some older guys that you could talk about. I think for my money, I mean, Alexander Robinson and Stevie Hicks feel like the correct 4 and 5, but who knows? I would say right now, though, just with as things stand exactly right now, I would put Carson Hansen somewhere in the 6 to 10 range, I would say. But we'll see. We'll see what he does the rest of this season, what he does next season, that kind of thing. And what he does in his senior season. So, but otherwise, a good question though. I like that question a lot. Do we have any other? I thought I had one other question here. Losing anyone on special teams? I mean, Kyle Conradi's back. So you lose Tyler Perkins, you lose the punter, but the kid you're bringing in, Lucas Tenbrock, is the 5th best punter in the country. He's like 6'6", he's huge. Oh yeah, Darren Davis. Okay, this is a good point. Yeah, Darren Davis is probably somewhere up there in that top 5-ish range too. So maybe you put Darren Davis might be 4. And is Carson Hansen better than Darren Davis? Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation though. And I think that's a conversation that will be better had after next season when Carson Hansen's career is over. That'll be a better conversation, but it's an interesting thing to think about right now. Cause like the thing you think about with like Rocco right now is where does Rocco slide in amongst best QBs in Iowa State history? He's not ahead of Brock probably yet. He's probably, and is he ahead of, I think a lot of people probably would not put him ahead of Seneca just on talent, but like Rocco has objectively accomplished much more than Seneca did through this point in his career. Is Rocco the 3rd best quarterback in history? Is he the 2nd best? Is he I don't know who else you would put. I mean, if it's not Brock and Seneca, I'm not sure who you would put over him. Like Sage Rosenfels was definitely not. I mean, my beef with Sage Rosenfels has been known at this point. I'm not a Sage Rosenfels guy. I do not like the person. But I also think he is kind of overrated as a quarterback. And I would say I think he's mostly just kind of there. I think he's a game manager at best. But Brett Meyer's there. Like, would you take Rocco or Brett Meyer? I would take Rocco over Brett Meyer personally. Brett Meyer has more total yardage and stuff like that for now, but like I would take Rocco over Brett Meyer. And I think right now, this is probably, if I were doing my personal quarterback rankings in Iowa State history, I think I would put Rocco 2nd right now. I mean, we'll see. The conversation is interesting. Like, what does he have to do to pass Brock? I mean, if he won a Big 12 title next year, he passes Brock. I think he just passes Brock. If he doesn't win a Big 12 title, where's the cutoff on what if he's better or worse? That's a great question that we can talk about in a few years, and we figure out what the kind of legacy looks like there. But I would put Rocco number 2 right now. Personally, I think I would put him ahead of Seneca. Especially just maybe raw talent. Maybe Seneca's there, but maybe I don't know. Maybe, but like as far as just accomplishments and what they've done, what they've won, Rocco's is clearly better than Seneca historically. Jarrell Brock, Jarrell Brock was an interesting one. It's kind of a shame that he got stuck behind Brees and then got caught up in the gambling thing. Jarrell Brock is kind of the career that is kind of is a big what if for like what could have happened there. Oh, anyways, I kind of had my little get distracted moment there. But on special teams, the punter you're bringing in is Lucas Tenbrock. He's like the number 5 punter in the country. He's huge. He's like 6'4", 6'5". He's a big dude. Uh, Monster leg. I think he'll come in and immediately be the starting punter, and he will immediately be very good at his job. I'm not worried about losing Tyler Perkins. Not that Tyler Perkins wasn't a good player, because he's arguably, I think, maybe the best punter in school history. But Tenbrock will come in and immediately be very, very good. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I think Tenbrock could probably also handle kickoff duties if they decided they want to use either him or Kyle. They could probably, if they wanted to make sure that Kyle was healthy for field, for place kicks, they could probably put Tenbrock on kickoffs and just let him rip it. But, we'll see how they handle that. I don't think I've got any. So previewing this weekend, there's not a lot to go over for this weekend. Oklahoma State's a bad football team. They're playing better as of late. Like they're not getting like completely run out of the building like they were for a while there. They did just hire North Texas's Eric Morris, but obviously he's not coaching or anything like that. But the team has gone through a rough stretch. I mean, they haven't won a game since they beat UT Martin, and they're 1-10 right now. Their last however many games they lost: 39-17 to Houston, 49-17 to Cincinnati, 42-0 to Texas Tech, 38-21 to Kansas, 14-6. They gave Kansas State a close one. They gave UCF a run for their money, but UCF is also terrible. To see what the line is on this one. I'm actually just curious now that I'm thinking about it. Right now, the line is sitting at, I would say, as a 14-point favorite. That's probably about right. Oklahoma State is not very good. This is a game that I would say absolutely has to go in. You don't need to win by 40, but go in. This is a great prove it game. It's go in, go on the road in a what is typically a tough environment, and just go down there, take care of business. Get yourself a couple score win, 2-3 scores at least, and take care of business. Don't let them hang around. Don't let the trick plays kind of goof you up a little bit. Just go down, take care of business. If Iowa State goes down and runs the football and if they can rack up 35 minutes of possession and run the ball for for 180 yards, they're going to win this game by a couple touchdowns. Oklahoma State's just terrible. There's Oklahoma State's playing for nothing. The team is completely downtrodden. There's nothing going on there right now. So like I said, not a lot to preview. Just go down, take care of business, run the football, take care of the football. You should be fine. So, yeah, that's really all there is. There's not a lot to go over for this weekend. I do want to touch a little bit on basketball. I would say it's off to, I believe, 5-0, 6-0, something right now. More importantly, though, they've got 2 wins here in Vegas, and the Players there at championship, beating St. John's yesterday by a point in a really, really fun, close game against a very good St. John's team. That is kind of a difficult matchup for them. And then, getting the kind of a blowout win today against Creighton. I don't know if Creighton's all that great, but they did do it without Tamin Lipsey. The thing to watch going forward, though, is the Tamin Lipsey injury. See what that looks like. They say he's day-to-day. They say it's not the same groin he injured last year. If he's truly day-to-day, hopefully he's ready to go by the time you head to Purdue. If you can have him ready to go by the time you head to Purdue, you're doing fine. If you have to rest him until conference play, you go to Purdue and just see what you can put together. Maybe keep it close, whatever it is, and you try to take care of Iowa without him, and just get to conference play, and then you can bring Tamin back. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But yeah, the format for that tournament is beyond stupid. 2-0 with 2-0 with arguably the 2 best wins of the tournament in terms of just quality of opponent and how dominant the win was against Creighton. I would say, but they're not even playing for third. It's really dumb. I understand what they were trying to do with the scoring differential and just try to match up best teams. I get what they were trying to do, but the problem is that not all the teams in the tournament are equal. Creighton is nowhere near as good as St. John's, and There's a couple other teams in there that are just not very good. And so some teams going to get two bad opponents. They're going to blow them out by 15 or 20 points apiece. And they're just going to skate right in. It's dumb. They will absolutely restructure this thing. It is what it is. But more importantly, right now, the defense looks awesome. They totally suffocated Creighton. There was a good chunk of that game against St. John's, where they had a lot of trouble moving the ball. They were able to make big shots down the stretch. Milo Momcilovic has been awesome in this tournament, and this is a good basketball team. If they can stay healthy, they can keep it together. They're going to win a lot of games here. Killian Toure against Creighton today was amazing. He was really good. And as long as Taman is out, they need Toure to play well. But if he plays like he did today and continues to play like that, we're not even going to notice Taman being gone, which is unbelievable considering Taman is probably a top 5 to 10 point guard in college basketball right now. Maybe you could probably make a case that he's the best one. So it's the most balanced team. It's not this team that's just trying to beat the shit out of you for 40 minutes and hope they can score 65. I mean, this is a team that's capable of putting, they can put 80, 90 points on the board against a Big 12 team. They can win a lot of basketball games, and we'll just have to keep an eye on them throughout the non-conference. So I think we'll wrap it up for this week. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Appreciate all the comments and questions. We will see. I don't know for sure. I will probably have a show next week to recap Oklahoma State, talk about the bowl, whatever obviously bowl matchup is going to be. We might take a week off after that, but then we'll get into talking about the bowl game after that. And then before you know it, the 2025 season will be over. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope to see you guys again next. Actually, on Saturday, we probably will do post game here since it's an away game. So plan on coming here after the game on Saturday. I might wait like a half an hour to let some of the other post game stuff. And I was like, Fanatics got theirs. Let theirs go for a little bit. I'll probably do like a half hour after the game is over. Jump on. We'll talk about the game on Saturday. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on Saturday after the game.